goals seem to align. Their goal is to fatten up the Great Flame Dynasty's national power and resources, much like fattening up a pig before slaughter, Zhong Yangming said. Empress nodded thoughtfully. Based on what you've said, that seems to be the case. Zhong Yangming then took out the storage ring that Xiao Tian had given him. Your Majesty, this is a gift from King of Hell. After sensing its contents, Empress was amazed. It's full of high-grade spiritual artifacts. King of Hell is really generous. It seems he genuinely wants the Great Flame Dynasty to prosper. I wonder what he's up to. Zhong Yangming couldn't help but think sarcastically. What else could he be up to? He probably just wants to indulge in food, drink, and leisure, and not worry about anything else. Oh, I need to ask Zhongling how Prince managed to annoy poisonous marsh elder to death. After putting away the ring, Empress told Zhong Yangming, let's hurry back. General Zhong and Zhongling are quite worried about you. Thank you, Your Majesty. No sooner had Zhong Yangming spoken than he was enveloped in a force field. Empress then took him and flew into the sky. Only then did he realize how incredibly fast she actually was. Not long after, Zhongli Huang and Zhongling were sighing in worry when Zhongling suddenly stood up, smacking Zhongli Huang on the side. Mom, look! Zhongli Huang looked and instantly teared up, mouth wide open. My husband is back. Despite the dark circles under his eyes, he looked rather spirited in his high-grade spiritual artifacts. Zhongli Huang rushed forward to embrace her husband, and they both broke down in tears. It's all my fault. If I hadn't argued with you yesterday, none of this would have happened. No, it's my fault for making you angry, Zhong Yangming said. Zhongling looked on, rather annoyed. Enough. You two have been married for years. Why are you being so mushy? I can't stand it. Hearing this, Zhongli Huang finally let go of her husband and turned around to poke Zhongling on the head. Empress looked at the harmonious family scene and smiled contentedly, although there was a tinge of wistfulness in her smile. How wonderful it is to be with family. Whenever she dealt with petitions late at night, she would think about the happiness of other families and could only console herself with the thought, even if I'm alone, I can still manage. That night, after finishing her work, Empress stretched, feeling satisfied. A maid quickly approached and asked, Your Majesty, would you like some late-night snacks brought over? No need. I'm not really in the mood today. Has the back palace study been cleaned up? The maid seemed hesitant, stammering, It has been cleaned up. Tired and not noticing anything amiss, Empress walked directly to the back palace, only to find something seemed different. Usually, during her rest periods, there would be minimal lighting in the back palace, especially in the front yard, which should be dim and chilly. Why is it different today? She thought. Picking up her pace, she saw her husband, Xiao Tian, sitting on a stone chair. Seeing Empress arrive, Xiao Tian smiled. You've been working so hard. How about a hot pot late-night snack? You've probably never had something like this. Empress paused, emotion welling up inside her. How are you? Here. Xiao Tian stood up and guided Empress to sit down. Commander Lu told me that you have a small habit. Whenever you're up late handling state affairs, you like to have some late-night snacks. Eating alone isn't much fun, so I prepared some local delicacies from my hometown to reward you, Your Majesty, for all your hard work. As he spoke, Xiao Tian picked up a piece of meat with his chopsticks. For hot pot, you need to cook the ingredients in the broth. Each ingredient has its own cooking time. Try this one. Unfortunately, we don't have sesame sauce here, otherwise a single dip would make it incredibly fragrant. Xiao Tian blew on the meat to cool it down. Your Majesty, please, have a taste. Empress's cheeks flushed as she obediently opened her mouth to try it. After carefully chewing, she felt the delicious flavors spread across her palate, making her cheeks even rosier. Prince serves me so well, I'm very pleased. You deserve a reward. Xiao Tian looked at her with interest. What would Your Majesty like to reward me with? Empress returned his gaze fervently. I reward you with the chance to feed me again. Xiao Tian smiled. Your Majesty, please wait a moment. The piece of meat I'm cooking for you this time requires special attention, so you'll have to wait. Empress silently watched Xiao Tian as he busied himself, feeling a sense of appreciation. It's so good not to be alone, she thought. The two continued to eat, drink, and chat happily, enjoying the steaming hot pot. Before they knew it, it was already late into the night. Finally full and satisfied, Xiao Tian put down his chopsticks. Standing up, he said, Your Majesty, it's getting late. I should be going. As he finished speaking, a ring on his hand emitted a glow, and the tableware was quickly put away. Xiao Tian prepared to leave, but Empress suddenly spoke. Why go through all the trouble? Just stay here and rest. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Tian felt a jolt in his heart. He turned to look at Empress, who was smiling at him, her eyes shining like autumn water. It seemed like it was going to be another restless night. In the middle of the night, Xiao Tian lay in bed while Empress sat upright, meditating. Xiao Tian was a bit speechless, so she invited me here just to watch her meditate, but her way of meditating is really something else. As time passed, Xiao Tian began to doze off. In his half-asleep state, he suddenly jolted awake. What on earth is that? A majestic dragon was spiraling around Empress, making her appear even more awe-inspiring. Feeling quite annoyed, Xiao Tian thought, why can't I cultivate? I want these cool visual effects too. He suddenly remembered the system, Puppy, and called out to it in his mind. However, the system displayed a message saying it was undergoing an upgrade. Growing impatient, Xiao Tian thought, why isn't it done upgrading yet? Upon hearing this, Puppy immediately paused its upgrade. I'm sorry. sorry. Master, how may I assist you? Xiao Tian pointed to the dragon surrounding Empress. Can I get those light effects too? Puppy clarified. Master, those aren't just light effects. They're the Emperor's dragon energy and royal purple energy that surrounds Zi Ruoyan. These are extremely rare and dignified energies that belong to the human race's legitimate lineage. Disdain appeared on Xiao Tian's face. Legitimate lineage of the human race? Is it so impressive? Puppy responded. Master, there are thousands of different worlds in the universe, each with their own traditions and races. Zi Ruoyan's lineage is from the most legitimate among these in the realm of thousands of worlds. Xiao Tian finally got serious. Thousands of realms and worlds, and the legitimate lineage of the human race is so powerful? Does that mean the realm we are currently in is one of the most core ones? No, Master. The realm you are in is called the Southern Wilderness Realm, also known as the Southern Wilderness World. It's one of the most desolate, impoverished, and fragile realms among the thousands of realms and worlds, Puppy explained. Hearing this, Xiao Tian was rendered speechless. So, I'm in the worst one? Fine, go back to upgrading. Subsequently, he looked at Empress with a goofy grin. Who would have thought I'd be so lucky? Summoned to another world, and not only do I get an Empress as a wife, but she also has golden legendary potential. Just as Xiao Tian was entranced by Empress, she suddenly opened her eyes and looked at him. Startled, he quickly turned around, his face flushing as he stammered. I was just looking, not doing anything. Seeing his reaction, Empress chuckled affectionately. Then, Empress ended her meditative state. With a wave of her small hand, the lights dimmed, shrouding the room in soft darkness. Alright, let's rest, she said as she lay down. Xiao Tian could only nod and obediently follow suit. After some time passed, under the increasingly bright starry sky, Xiao Tian, who was deep in sleep, was suddenly awoken by Empress, who kissed him lightly. Pulling away, she softly explained, my word is my bond. Since I said I would reward you, I won't just casually go back on it. It's just that it's a bit late. Xiao Tian's face turned red, and one thought dominated his mind. Did I just lose my first kiss like that? He moved closer to Empress, whispering in her ear, can you still sleep? Meanwhile, a group of people dressed in black robes looked at the writings on the ground, completely astonished. Black Soul Hall and Blood Cloud Tower have just disappeared like that, without a trace. Elder Wu Haobo looked disdainful. Bai Qinglian is really useless, can't even handle such a small matter. At these words, the two men in black robes who were with him immediately became unhappy. Wu Haobo, we're all in the same boat here. The Bai Temple Master is dead. What's the use of speaking ill of him now, especially when he died fighting against someone as powerful as the King of Hell? He died like a man. However, the next second, Wu Haobo snapped. Nonsense. Following his outburst, a sharp attack instantly pierced through the forehead of one of the men. The remaining few stared at him in shock. Is this the same Wu Haobo who was afraid of dying? He's just an elder of a minor division, and yet his move was so swift and powerful. Trembling, one of them cautiously asked, you've actually reached the 9th rank already? Wu Haobo smirked. When facing someone as strong as the King of Hell, one must be careful with their words and show some respect. Those who don't surrender and choose to provoke are just asking for death. Fortunately, our sect planned for one of us to be in the open and the other hidden. Otherwise, how would our sect ever get word of what's happened here? At this, the few were even more astonished. You and Bai Qinglian are actually from the same sect? Wu Haobo didn't answer but muttered to himself, Bai Qinglian, my foolish junior brother, you almost ruined our sect's big plans. He then turned to the crowd. My junior brother Bai Qinglian is dead. It's my turn to come into the light and take temporary control of the Black Soul territory. From now on, all the divisions will combine into one, gathering our forces. The Southeastern Sandstorm Division will serve as the main temple for now. Everyone quickly bowed their heads in agreement. After finishing his instructions, Wu Haobo thought grimly, King of Hell, once reinforcements from my sect arrive, you won't be jumping around any longer. On the other side, in the backyard of Empress's study, Empress was writing. Xiao Tian, holding a book, asked, Wife, isn't the story in the Emperor's journey a bit exaggerated? Empress replied, No, what's recorded in the book are all true experiences of my father. Everything can be verified. Although it may seem incredible, it's precisely because of such incredible experiences that my father was able to achieve such great feats. Xiao Tian was speechless. He didn't pick up the wrong book, but his wife's father was actually named Esteemed Purple Emperor. What's with this cringeworthy, overly dramatic name? And this biography reads like a wish fulfillment story. The book actually says that a long time ago, an old scholar found a baby at his doorstep and named him Esteemed Purple Emperor. However, Esteemed Purple Emperor was different from others from a young age. There were sounds of dragon roars in his dreams. Unfortunately, when he was tested at the age of 5, his talent was deemed extremely low. At that time, he suffered a lot of disdain and ridicule from others. Finally, at the age of 16, after experiencing a broken engagement and his foster father's suicide, he attempted to take his own life. Fortunately, his suicide attempt failed, and instead, he stumbled upon a cave filled with spiritual energy in the form of elixirs. With the influx of this vast elixir, Esteemed Purple Emperor's Supreme Emperor's body finally awakened. Later, Esteemed Purple Emperor broke through his limitations and traveled the world. He met his companions and gradually made a name for himself. However, the genius girl who broke off their engagement, along with the son of a promoted county magistrate, couldn't stand to see esteemed purple emperor leading such a successful life, so they frequently sought to cause trouble for esteemed purple emperor, even escalating their efforts to the point of attempting to assassinate him at his home. To protect himself, esteemed purple emperor had no choice but to kill the son of the county magistrate. Little did he know, this son was actually the illegitimate child of the current prime minister. To protect this younger son from potential harm from his legitimate wife, the prime minister had secretly placed the child under the care of his student, the county magistrate. Now that the child was killed, esteemed purple emperor had angered the powerful and had no choice but to flee while facing assassination attempts. Eventually, after discovering that all his friends and family in his hometown were killed by the prime minister, esteemed purple emperor became enraged. He killed the county magistrate, took up arms, and started a rebellion. A few years later, at just 20 years old, he founded the nation of Great Flame and became the great emperor that his foster father, the old scholar, had always believed he would be. Reading this, Xiao Tian couldn't help but be impressed. What an awe-inspiring father-in-law, just like the main character of a novel. Although the story seemed extraordinarily thrilling and reasonable, something felt odd to him. Seeing him furrow his brows, Empress asked, "What's on your mind? You look concerned." Xiao Tian then slowly explained, "Your father had an extraordinary encounter in that cave, awakening his potential. He wanted to study at the Four Directions Academy, but had no way to get in. At that time, the county magistrate's cousin was present and provoked your father. They fought and caught the attention of the academy's tutor, who then admitted your father." Empress nodded. "Indeed, that was one of the fortunate twists in my father's life, full of hardships. Your Majesty, don't you find it odd?" Xiao Tian continued. "If you look at the story of esteemed purple emperor from a different perspective, something about his life experiences doesn't add up." Hearing this, Empress suddenly turned her head and said, "What do you mean?" "Based on my inference, when esteemed purple emperor first entered the academy, he had little to no resources. However, shortly after enrolling, he was provoked by the cousin of the county magistrate's son. He won several spirit stones and elixirs from the duel. The prodigious girl who broke off the engagement, and she initiated a challenge herself. She lost to your father, giving him a substantial amount of academic credits, which could be used to exchange for various resources at the academy. Coincidentally, your father didn't have a suitable spiritual artifact at the time, so these academic credits came just in time. Later, when your father left the Four Directions Academy and wandered the world with your mother, the county magistrate's son secretly mobilized the power of his biological father, the prime minister, to ambush him. Your father not only killed the county magistrate's son, but also those who were trying to assassinate him, gathering a large amount of resources in the process. When he rose in rebellion in Luo County, the prime minister was enraged and sent troops to suppress him. Each time your father clashed with the imperial army, he captured a great deal of military supplies and provisions, expanding his territory in the process. Finally, during a standoff against the prime minister's army led by Prince himself, your father fought to a standstill with the prime minister's four great Vidras. He had a breakthrough on the battlefield, killed the four great Vidras first, and then decapitated the prime minister, putting an end to this long-standing grudge. Empress listened intently as Xiao Tian continued. "Don't you find it strange that at every turn, your father seemed to gain precisely the resources he needed, almost as if some unseen force was arranging things for him?" Hearing this, Empress suddenly stopped writing and turned to face Xiao Tian, asking, "Are you sure you're reading the biography of the esteemed purple emperor?" Xiao Tian still looked skeptical and said, "If you remove all the emotional text that portrays how miserable your father's life was, and only look at the outcomes and gains, the situation becomes very interesting. This prime minister of Great Han could have directly sent his four great Vidras to resolve the issues from the start, but instead, he kept sending experience, equipment, money, territory, and even supplies. Toward the end, he even gave up his own life, catapulting your father's fame to the peak." The more Empress listened, the more startled she became. She quickly put down her brush, went over to Xiao Tian, and grabbed the book to flip through it. Sure enough, the content was as Xiao Tian described. Seeing how worked up Empress was, Xiao Tian tried to comfort her, saying, "I don't know if it's really this coincidental or if someone with a twisted sense of humor has been manipulating things all along. After being adopted by an old scholar who wrote storybooks for a living, your father led a life similar to that of a storybook protagonist." This thought alarmed Empress. Could my father's legendary life have actually been manipulated by someone? She wondered silently. "No, something is wrong here." She told Xiao Tian to keep this hypothesis a secret, stowed away in their hearts. "Regardless of the truth, strength is what matters most. My cultivation has been going very smoothly lately. Even reaching the 10th level won't take too long," she said. With that, she patted Xiao Tian on the shoulder and assured him, "Don't worry, I've got this. Any conspiracies or schemes, any fog of deception, all would be laughable in the face of absolute strength. Even if the situation deteriorates to an irreparable state, if anyone wants your life, they'll have to step over my dead body first." After speaking, Empress blushed slightly and turned back to her desk. Xiao Tian was left somewhat bewildered by her words. "Hold on, all I did was casually read a book and share some afterthoughts. How did the topic suddenly shift to matters of life and death and profound vows? And what's with my wife, the Empress? Why is she trying to flirt with me so abruptly? Ugh, this is frustrating. I'm feeling sleepy again. Might as well lie down, he thought. With his current leisurely lifestyle, he mused that he could easily write a storybook titled The Royal Son-in-Law. The overbearing Empress falls in love with me. Amused by his own thoughts, Xiao Tian yawned out of boredom. After some time, Empress finally finished her work and stretched beautifully. When she turned her head, she found that Xiao Tian had already fallen asleep. She smiled at the sight, thinking that having someone by her side felt indeed wonderful. She wondered, though, how long she could preserve this happiness. That day, Xiao Tian enjoyed a meal at cook Zhong Yangming's home while Zhong and his daughter practiced their stances in front of him, trembling with exhaustion. As Xiao Tian ate, he didn't forget to chastise Zhong. Squat lower. How are you even worse than your own daughter? Provoked by his words, Zhong Yangming couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed on the ground, panting heavily. Why is this so difficult? He muttered. Xiao Tian shook his head and said, practicing martial arts without foundational work is a waste. Your basics are too weak. You are far behind Ziruoyan in the same cultivation process. Her speed in cultivation is fast, but her foundation is very solid, perhaps due to her constitution. You should earnestly follow my training. Just look at how skilled your daughter is. Zhong Ling also turned her head to encourage her father. Dad, hang in there. Prince's cultivation methods are really effective. It's not just about honing the basics, it seems to enhance innate talent as well. Zhong Yangming was stunned. Enhance innate talent? Xiao Tian took a large gulp of fine wine. Your cultivation methods rely on borrowing the power of heaven and earth to improve yourselves. That's interesting in its own right. My past training focused on external body conditioning and internal energy cultivation. I focus on self-improvement, continuously exploring my own potential and breaking through human limits. This technique emphasizes transcending oneself, establishing one's inner world. The heart and mind communicate with each other, connecting with the heaven and earth. Zhong Yangming and his daughter were dumbfounded. This concept was simply inconceivable in their understanding. Xiao Tian shouted, all right, continue practicing. Your fatigue means you've just started getting into the groove. The real mental grind starts now. Seeing Zhong Yangming trembling uncontrollably, Xiao Tian couldn't help but inwardly chuckle. Zhong Yangming is actually a once-in-a-millennium martial arts prodigy. The title of heavy armored cavalry will probably spread far and wide before long. Meanwhile, at the residence of Chancellor Liu Outyan, who had been plotting to kill Xiao Tian, Liu Outyan was reviewing official documents. Suddenly, he sensed someone approaching. In the next second, a masked man appeared before him. The masked man respectfully presented a sealed letter. Sir, please take a look. Liu Outyan took the letter, his expression turning somber. Is there an issue with the Empire? They've actually sent someone to deliver a message directly. This is absolutely outrageous. The masked man quickly explained. Sir, there has been a slight issue in the aftermath of the Black Soul Hall's destruction. Liu Outyan snorted coldly. An issue? What kind of issue could there be? It's probably just the Holy Demon Sect sending more people. But the next second, Liu Outyan was stunned. How could this be? That's the Holy Demon Sect. He stood up immediately and inquired, how did the leader of the Holy Demon Sect die? What about the agreement? The man replied, Sir, the agreement still stands. According to the information provided by the Astral Pavilion, although the leader of the Holy Demon Sect is dead, a new leader will soon take his place. Liu Outyan seemed quite shocked. According to the information we have, the Holy Demon Sect wasn't completely wiped out. It seems someone else interfered, and the three-party agreement is still intact. Things are very complicated right now and prone to go wrong. Liu Outyan paced back and forth in his chamber, visibly unsettled. We've planned for so many years and expended so much in resources. There mustn't be any mistakes at this final juncture. Rest assured, sir, His Majesty has mentioned that our years of hard work will not go to waste. If the new leader of the Holy Demon Sect plays by the rules, all is well. If not, we're prepared for that too. As he said this, the masked man took out a talisman. Liu Outyan was immediately taken aback. What is this? He snatched the talisman. Has His Majesty gone mad? If this talisman is activated, it'll be a do-or-die situation. This is incredibly daring. To bring this here. No wonder someone was sent all this way. Delivering a message was just a ruse. This is the real deal, isn't it? Indeed. The masked man removed his mask and said, His Majesty's verbal order. At worst, it's a do-or-die situation. Liu Outyan was stunned. He actually sent you? It seems His Majesty is prepared for a battle of no return. He spoke coldly. Who else came with you? The man replied, The 4 great Vidras. It looks like we've indeed reached the final juncture. From now on, stay at the place I've prepared and try not to show yourselves. Understood. We are just a backup force and won't take any action unless absolutely necessary. With that, the masked man vanished in a flash, leaving only Liu Outyan standing there. He looked at the secret letter and muttered, 100 years of planning, and yet things are prone to go wrong at the most critical moment. What exactly happened to the Holy Demon Sect? I've spent so many years working for the Eastern Flame Kingdom and the Great Flame. There can't be any mistakes now. Xiao Tian walked down the street, and immediately a young man approached, offering him some local snacks. Prince, this is freshly made popcorn popcorn flour. Would you like to try some? Xiao Tian took it and asked, has your mother's illness been cured? The young man was overwhelmed with gratitude. Yes, she's better now. If it weren't for the medical expenses you lent us, my mother would have. Never mind. How does the popcorn flour taste? Xiao Tian gave a slight smile. It tastes excellent, but let me correct you. The money was not lent by me, but awarded by Her Majesty the Empress. Keep this in mind. The young man was teary-eyed. Rest assured, Prince, I'll engage in good deeds and won't let you down. As he continued down the road, an old lady approached. Prince, this handkerchief is carefully embroidered by me. Please give it to Her Majesty. If it weren't for you and Her Majesty lending me money, I wouldn't even know where to get money for my stall. Others joined in. Prince, please try these candied hawthorns I made by hand. Prince, this fruit is from my own farm. It's guaranteed to be sweet. Please take some back to try. Calls and praises echoed around him. Xiao Tian walked like the light of righteousness on earth. Countless villagers kept praising. The prince is such a good man. Ever since he married Her Majesty, the moral climate in the capital has been getting better and better. Exactly. Prince is charitable and kind, not associating with evil. Yes, people say that the prince is living off his spouse, but if one can live off their spouse to such an extent, who would object? How about we give Prince a nickname? That sounds like a good idea. Let's call him the Supreme Benevolent Sugar Baby Deity. Soon after, in a deserted corner, Xiao Tian sighed deeply. Zhongling and another person quickly asked what was wrong. Xiao Tian turned his head, his face full of gloom. Do you guys have nicknames? Zhongling was the first to answer. Yes, I'm called the Dancing Flame Sword. Back in the day, I fought through various talents across the Great Flame at the 5th level, and Her Majesty bestowed this name upon me. Xiao Tian looked even more miserable. And you? Lu Yan thought for a moment. Before the young general grew up, I was in charge of quelling bandits within the kingdom for a period. People called me the Hawk Dog under the Emperor. Hearing this, Xiao Tian was completely disheartened. Damn it, why do their nicknames sound so cool, while mine is the Supreme Benevolent Sugar Baby Deity? What kind of ridiculous name is that? Zhongling and Lu Yan looked at the dispirited figure of Xiao Tian. They didn't understand what had wronged him so deeply. They could only catch up quickly. Xiao Tian didn't notice that there was a beggar in the corner. As he walked past her, the female beggar lowered her head even more. Lu Yan felt a sense of unease. It looks like Prince really is in a bad mood. He even ignored a beggar and didn't give any money. After the three left, the female beggar quietly lifted her head, watching their retreating figures, and muttered, I didn't expect to find such a talented woman in a place like this. Quite surprising. Not long after, the three arrived at the Green Flame Town distillery. The village head kept expressing gratitude. Prince, you truly are the savior of Green Flame Town. Not only did you fund the road construction, but you also introduced the Green Flame Empress wine. Additionally, you leased the southeast region of the Green Flame Mountain, breeding wild pigs, chickens, ducks, and other livestock, especially the wild pig meat. It has become the second iconic product of Green Flame Town following the Green Flame Empress wine. It's often in high demand. Xiao Tian felt a surge of pride. Those were the wild pigs he had protected with various formations around the mountain. The taste was simply indescribable. He told the village head, it's nothing. Everything I did was for the betterment of the town. I'm here to collect some wine and also head to the livestock farm on the southeast side of Green Flame Mountain to pick a pig for a feast. As he firmly held his hand, Xiao Tian thought, let go of me. I want meat and wine. Don't stop me. Zhong Yangming is waiting to cook for me. Just then, Xiao Tian suddenly heard a distant voice. How is this possible? It's just a pig farm. Why are there so many formations? What's with this formation? Unable to control himself, Xiao Tian roared. What's wrong with this world? In broad daylight, a young woman is up to such mischief. He sped off, shouting to his companions, wait here. I'll be right back. How dare they try to steal my pigs? Meanwhile, inside the formation at the pig farm, a woman was suspended in the air. This ancient formation is so annoying. I don't know how old it is, but it's so sturdy. It'll probably take hours for me to break free. I just wanted to taste the legendary Green Flame Mountain pork. Why is it so hard? I, the Demon Clan Empress, am stuck here. Suddenly, rapid footsteps approached. The woman was stunned. How can an ordinary person run so fast? Xiao Tian curiously looked at her. Isn't this the beggar I saw on the road earlier? But speaking of which, since when do beggars eat so well? Feeling Xiao Tian's gaze, Luo Fengyuan's face turned red, and she shouted, get lost, you stinky man. What are you looking at? A moment later, Xiao Tian suddenly spoke. This is my fault. I've caused you unnecessary suffering. Stepping forward, he reached out to touch the ancient formation. Startled, Luo Fengyuan quickly shouted, don't touch it. This formation is dangerous. Yet in the next second, the formation unraveled in Xiao Tian's hands like soft ropes being pulled apart. Luo Fengyuan, no longer restrained, landed beside Xiao Tian. He chuckled, relax. This is just a second tier, low-grade formation I had someone set up. See how thin these lines are? They're easy to undo. I apologize for my previous neglect due to my bad mood. If I had assisted you earlier, you wouldn't have been desperate enough to sneak up the mountain to steal a pig and get caught in the formation. Luo Fengyuan was stunned. Xiao Tian then took out a stack of silver notes and asked, is there anything else you need help with? Still in shock, Luo Fengyuan inquired, are you very rich? He hesitated. Well, I guess I ma'am? Luo Fengyuan's face turned slightly red. Then, would you consider supporting me? Now it was Xiao Tian's turn to be stunned. He looked her over, thinking, the world really has changed. Such a lovely girl first resorts to begging, then stealing, and now even considers selling herself and her soul. Is this how Luo Outyin governs his country? Luo Fengyuan, on the other hand, wondered, is he angry? I just saw how effortlessly he broke the constraints of the ancient formation. My approach is also related to the trilateral agreement. Why is he so peculiar in his thoughts? He wouldn't reject me, would he? He has no right to refuse me. Thinking this, Luo Fengyuan wiped the mud off her face and flicked her long hair, laughing, I am still very attractive. If I clean up and stay by your side, I won't embarrass you and will be very obedient. Seeing Xiao Tian staring intently at her, Luo Fengyuan giggled to herself. Indeed, no man could resist. Just then, Xiao Tian suddenly slapped Luo Fengyuan on the head and shouted word by word, stay away. If the Empress finds out, my peaceful life will be over. Luo Fengyuan held her head, utterly stunned. Damn it, there's actually a man who can reject me, and he's done it twice. But this pain, I kind of want to feel it again. She looked at him with a longing expression. Xiao Tian was completely baffled. Is this girl a little off? Why does she seem so happy even after I hit her? He squatted down and patiently explained, young lady, this kind of thinking isn't right, you know? As humans, we should strive to live positively and face the sunshine. How can you be so self-deprecating? If you're facing difficulties, you can talk to me about them. Without hesitation, Luo Fengyuan said, no, I want to experience the feeling of getting something for nothing. Hearing this, Xiao Tian, who was initially trying to comfort her, clenched his fist in anger. Are you really out of your mind, not listening to advice? I'm telling you to live a proper life, not to have such wild fantasies. Can't you understand? As he spoke, Xiao Tian once again landed a punch on her head. Unexpectedly, Luo Fengyuan's face was filled with joy, and she said with a look of enjoyment, oh, how strange. Why can't this concubine understand? Xiao Tian was about to scold. How can you possibly not understand? But in the next second, it seemed as if he had realized something. Understanding dawned on him, and his face was suddenly covered in cold sweat. Could it be this girl has awakened some strange fetish? Xiao Tian was terrified. If the Empress finds out, I'm probably going to be kicked out. Seeing the woman acting so clingy, he cautiously offered, how about I take you home to find your parents? But to his surprise, the beggar woman, with a face full of sorrow, responded, my parents killed each other. They're both gone. Feeling helpless, Xiao Tian tried to persuade her. Can you at least heed my advice and lead a good life? With a lovesick expression, the beggar woman cooed, this concubine doesn't understand. Annoyed by her behavior, Xiao Tian was about to slap her, thinking, she's really beyond redemption. She's driving me crazy. But just as his hand was about to hit her, he held back. He thought to himself, I can't slap her. She seems to enjoy it. As expected, the beggar woman looked up at him with an expectant look, not dodging his move at all. Frustrated, Xiao Tian punched the ground. What misfortune. I just wanted to enjoy some wild boar meat, and now I've got this mess on my hands. Not long after, at the Green Flame Town distillery, the village head spotted someone approaching. Ha, is that Prince? Zhongling and Lu Yan were taken aback. They quickly followed the direction the village head was pointing and exclaimed, wow, did Prince bring back a beautiful beggar woman? The beggar woman, with a love-struck expression, shamelessly asked Xiao Tian, this concubine is so tired. Can you carry me on your back? Xiao Tian immediately turned and snapped at her. Shut up. Walk on your own. Hearing this, the beggar woman once again showed that provoking expression, replying, this concubine understands now. The village head, along with Zhongling and Lu Yan, were left stunned. Wasn't Prince going to catch the pig thief? Why did he bring back such a peculiar beggar woman? And, does Prince always have such a temper? It wasn't until the two approached that Lu Yan finally pointed at the beggar woman and asked, Prince, who is this? Xiao Tian immediately handed the beggar woman over to the village head. Please, make sure to find her a job at the women's packaging factory. Keep a close eye on her. She needs to undergo labor reform and understand the meaning of self-reliance. She should create her own future with her own hands through hard work. As he spoke, he couldn't help but slap the beggar woman on the head again. Did you hear me? The beggar woman, with a face full of joy, responded, this concubine understands. Upon witnessing this scene, Zhongling and Lu Yan felt completely dumbfounded. What's with this woman? At this moment, Xiao Tian wanted to leave immediately. After instructing the village head to arrange everything, he bolted. The village head looked somewhat uneasy. I didn't expect Prince, who has an empress, to be so audacious. Luckily, there was a residence that the townspeople had built as a gift for the prince. It came in handy now. All Xiao Tian could think was, women are so annoying. I need a drink. I want to eat the food made by Zhong Yangming to console my wounded soul. Soon, the beggar woman was settled in the house. She sat by a stone table, lost in thought. That Xiao Tian is interesting. Since my parents passed away when I was young, no one has dared to hit or scold me like that. But this feeling of being disciplined, it's quite nice. If Xiao Tian saw her expression now, he would probably have nightmares tonight. Suddenly, the woman's face turned cold. In a flash, several figures landed in front of her. It turned out they were 3 women from the demon clan. The leader was named the eldest. All 3 simultaneously addressed the beggar woman, Empress. The woman, with an authoritative authoritative presence was none other than the empress of the demon clan. At that moment, in a secluded palace within the royal city, 3 subordinates of Luo Fengyuan arrived upon hearing the news. Ensuring there was no one around, Luo Fengyuan transformed back to her true appearance before addressing the 3. How are things progressing? One of them reported, Empress, the tripartite agreement drafted by the Holy Demon Sect, Black Soul Hall, and Eastern Flame Kingdom to divide the fate of the Great Flame Dynasty is still ongoing. The Holy Demon Sect mentioned in the agreement was founded by your 18th royal brother. Thus, it's logical for us to take over the agreement. Luo Fengyuan sighed. My 18th brother was indeed competent. If our parents hadn't instigated a war over the throne, leading the primordial demon kingdom into a decade-long civil war, they wouldn't have died at each other's hands. I had to fight with my siblings for the throne to survive, resulting in the fate becoming unstable. I suspect the agreement was something my 18th brother intended to use after his ascension. Now, with Black Soul Hall severely weakened, they're of limited assistance. Our strategy remains: win over the hearts of the people of the Great Flame Dynasty using resources. Use the resources I've brought to benefit the common folk.